Okay, so this is going to be a controlled video in regards to ISO malware investigating. Um, if you caught the now deleted live stream, to which my wife made a appearance, because I forgot to tell her I was recording. Um, you know, good on you. You could probably ignore most of this, if not all of it, but to basically just put a pin in this finally to be done, at least as it sits right now. So, basically to make sure that everybody's on the same page, this is an investigation of basically inside of an environment that's protected with CrowdStrike. There was a detection for odd PowerShell execution. So obviously we've got this particular aspect up here is the process tree. So we see Explorer fired Healthy.exe, which fired Healthy.exe, which opened up command window, which then called PowerShell. So basically what it was complaining about is PowerShell script environmental variable. PowerShell launched a script stored in an environmental variable. Adversaries sometimes store malicious scripts in those variables and pass them into PowerShell via stdin. Investigate the process tree. And so all the hashes, everything else like that, come back entirely fine for the investigation. CrowdStrike knows that obviously something about this is not kosher, if you will. And it's just like, yeah, I don't like this. So if we go up one level, because this is the portion, so this is PowerShell space dash, as denoted by the command line down there at the bottom left. We switch this sucker over. So here is the command. So we're working our way up the chain, if you will. So here we can see PowerShell or PowerShell dash being called by command.exe. Not a whole heck of a lot there. And we work up further the chain. So this is the healthy that calls the command. And we can pull a couple of things out of here. So apparently this thing exists inside of users directory, appdata, roaming, healthy.exe. And so the key takeaway here is, one from the command line section. If you go through, we can see that we have the roaming directory confirmed. But there's also apparently a healthy folder that was created inside of the user directory appdata local. So something else we need to take a look at. And there's also a denotion for user directory appdata local temp. And looks like stuff dumped in there. It would be worth noting that at the time of this investigation, we were looking at no detections inside of ET, as in these samples were not up there. And obviously, so no engines are detecting anything. We'll work our way further up. And so this is the Healthy.exe right after Explorer.exe. And so we can see that it's being called with a command for HV418EQMH3, which again doesn't mean much. Again, the hash is not inside of VirusTotal at all. So the healthies are exactly the same. Hashes match out everything else like that. So effectively what this took was looking through the event data inside of CrowdStrike to find a couple of interesting aspects. So effectively, let me get there we go. Transition over, And let me get this blown up a little bit to make it a little bit easier to see. So this is the first detected ISO file. This was derived by taking a look at the creation time of the directory of Healthy inside of user directory, or C users user directory, appdata roaming, and then the Healthy folder. And then confirming that it's within a couple of minutes of the Healthy directory that was, or folder that was made inside of the local portion of appdata. Okay, so we've got an estimated timeline, and then basically just start digging through downloads and the like to find something that is in the same portion. And lo and behold, there's a 125 meg ISO file that was apparently downloaded and looks like run by the data shortly before the creation of the Healthy folders inside the roaming and local directories. And again, at the previous time, when this stuff was going on, there was, let me see if, okay, that looks a little bit better to me. No hits in VT. So these ISOs had not been uploaded. So downloaded them, verified no, shall we say, sensitive information, and uploaded them to VT to go through and dig. And now obviously this is now 3 days old from the last time this was refreshed, but as we can see, we're getting actual detections now for ad search. So at the time, ISO file passed everything. Could not confirm the actual chain, but given the fact that it was for the infection, but given the fact that it is a 125 meg file, this did not come over email. What this more than likely was a hook email was sent, saying, hey, something's ready for you. Click this link. Takes you to a page, which page is entirely fine. Nothing malicious there. But on that page is a link to either another page that would then direct to the ISO file or just a direct link to the ISO file. And again, this is next-gen AV, and to be 100% clear, I am not throwing shade at CrowdStrike or any other AV vendor in regards to this, because after a couple of days, after this stuff was up in VT, a lot of them were getting up on the ball. I just happen to know that CrowdStrike apparently has a weakness when it comes to ISO files, IMG, and I'm assuming probably virtual hard disk files, VHDs. They all get mounted the same way, at least in Windows 8, 10, 11, and above. Microsoft saw to it that you could just double-click an ISO file and it would mount it virtually. So you don't need, to date myself, you don't need tools like Daemon tools or anything else like that to basically create a virtual CD-ROM drive to mount ISO files. You didn't need an extra piece of software. Windows just takes care of it for you now. And we've seen this previously, and I'll include a couple of links in the video description unless I can find it right quick here. I think it was ISO... I think eSentry had a post that was put out. Yeah, async rat. Although they were doing it a little bit differently. They were sending smaller ISO files that would basically go through and kick this stuff off. But this stuff's been going on for a little bit of time now. Oh, okay, they talk about DAA files, at least in this particular one, but eSentry was the one that I had looked at. Because unfortunately I've had a couple of run-ins with async rat before, so... But in this particular case, it was... Okay, so mid-March 2020. They get an order receipt.html attachment to email. They'd open that up, and that would go through to see about pulling down the ISO file, but it would be less than a meg. which would then get mounted. The Visual Basic script would go through kickoff and start the infection chain. This one's a little bit different. And don't worry, I have the samples and I have a sandbox ready to go. So we can go through and do this stuff. But so back to the virus total aspect. So this stuff's starting to get detected now. I wouldn't be surprised as to whether or not if maybe this starts to get resolved. I know that CrowdStrike next iterations is supposed to have better detection for these virtual disk files. Supposedly, we'll see. Let's see, what am I looking for here? It's the relations, right? Where's the behaviors? Bear with me. I haven't even had my full thing of coffee yet today. Here we go. Bundled files. That's the aspect we're looking for. So, these ISO files, and there've been 3 so far. They create a inside of C users user account, app data, local and roaming. They've created a healthy, an energy, and a cache. But they've all followed the same type of chain. Email comes in to get you to go to a page that then downloads the overly sized ISO file in order to sit there and get past that stuff. I'm assuming that they picked roughly, 125 to 150 megs in order to avoid AV scans to a portion, at least for the file itself. But effectively, these ISOs files are dumped into an icon file, resources.bat, Install.lnk, and app.zip. And give me a second. I have somewhere in here the contents of maybe. Okay, yeah. Hang on. Bear with me. I actually have it extracted. I thought I had copied out the valuable points and dumped them into a text document, but alas, I did not. Here we go. Okay, so effectively the chain, and as you can see that at least as of middle of last month, these things are slowly getting a little bit more play in terms of virus detections. So effectively the chain is, once this stuff opens up, that link calls resources.bat, which then goes and extracts the contents of app.zip to the roaming directory, and then sets up persistence for this stuff to kick off via registry value. And so let me show you that. I used I had it jotted down. It was LECMD. I forget who creates it. And obviously I want to give them props in regards to that, but I am unfortunately blanking on who created it, but I'll include Eric Zimmerman. He created it to basically go through and parse LNK files safely. So you're not sitting there trying to, right click and bring up the properties on it, because that will execute it. Let me bring this. Okay, that looks better. And so this is the local sample for this. Your files are ready for download.iso. The install.lnk, and they all follow the same process. All three ISOs that have been investigated. They basically backwalk everything to basically just call into resources.bat. And that's effectively all it does. So if you're playing with this, you find a sample. If you've got that resources.bat, or however they're going to term it in terms of a bat file, just rename it. It kind of neuters it. And as you can see for the other install links, does the same exact portion. A bunch of ... backslash. Basically, just again, point to resources.bat. And then for the third one, same exact portion. Nothing changes. These are some of the other ones that have gone through. So we had a Star Wars Resistance wallpaper. And where the Crawdads sing. Apparently this is a movie that was released September 2022. When this thing had gone through, this was like, again, mid-August. So somebody thought they were getting a screener copy or something. I don't know. In typical fashion, end user doesn't have any idea. So, again, with all three of these, we've got a working theory in regards to as to how this infection chain started, but we can't confirm it due to the fact of we can't find the smoking gun of the email in question. But it all leads to the same exact portion. So if we expand this out, so install.lnk, at the time, not much was detecting it. Actually, you know what? I think I need to backtrack. I think when I submitted this, the ISO file to VT, in every case, I think ESET was the only AV engine detecting. So depending on your opinion of ESET, I usually look at them reasonably favorably, but they were the only ones to sit there and pick out anything. Which is kind of what prompted the whole thing of taking extra steps to be very careful with this ISO file to sit there and play around with this stuff. And this has effectively been done to, this use of ISO files in order to get the stuff delivered to the workstations in question, because we've kind of played out the whole aspect for, maliciously trapped Word files, or, being able to kick stuff off in PDF files, or just straight off script files. Granted, this link, or this ISO, when mounted, kicks off the install.lnk, which then goes through, kicks resources.bat, which a script file, human readable, and then basically just unzips everything. That's the aspect I should show you, which I think I was trying to get to, but then got a little bit sidetracked. So let me switch this, and I will show you the content of, so this is resources.bat. This is what install.lnk immediately calls to. Execute. So this goes through, and like I said, and since it's so big, it's going to kind of screw with everything. But so the first line is to go through and unzip the contents of app.zip into appdata, which should point to your user account appdata roaming. And if I can, let me see. Okay, yes, I think I can show this without an issue. But let me run through this stuff and then I'll show you the contents. The second string is to go through for HKey current user, software, Microsoft Windows, current version, run, and remove if there is a entry in there for healthy. So it's making sure that, okay, maybe you've already got an infection. And this is, going to give an updated copy of the payload. So let's get rid of the old, or even if you actually find some sort of legitimate, because that's been the other aspect too, is that we've not found a legitimate copy of Healthy.exe on any system. Same thing with Energy, same thing with cache. And then the second string, or no, third thing kicked off from resources.bat is basically just adding the call for this particular version of Healthy. So again, it calls same exact portion for the run, calls Healthy, and points it to the appdata directory. So in this case, C users, user directory, appdata, roaming, healthy, healthy.exe, and kicks it off. And again, the -HV418EQMH3 is the same thing that we observed in the process tree. And then obviously it just starts healthy.exe. So let me get that gone. And here's going to be part of the problem. I don't think I can make this any bigger, but I'm hoping it will come across all right. So this is the app.zip opened up, and you can see there is the directory named healthy, which then breaks out and also contains a healthy.exe. And then basically that stuff would be kicked off. To in which, as of 3 days ago, is detected by about half the AV engines that subscribe to VT. And all with the same particular portion for pretty much ad search. So thankfully it's not something more like Redline Stealer or ransomware or anything else along those lines. If you're not using CrowdStrike, I'm not entirely sure as to how this particular portion would be kicked off. Maybe if you have an end user that comes to you and says, yeah, I got this weird ISO file, and the most common, I think, complaint that has been tied to any of this stuff has been the system's been running slow, or seems to be running slow. And it might be a good time to go through and kind of dig through the system and take a look, see if you have any weird directories. So I think we're about ready to kick off to the sandbox then. Oh boy, oh boy. Okay. So let's get that transitioned over. Hooray, that works. And so this is a Windows 10 VM. And we're going to kick off some of the tools. So we'll do TCP view from sysinternals. We'll do process explorer, and we'll do auto runs. Oh, I suppose what I should do at the same time, let me show you that this is not a infected system. So we've got the Windows ISO mounted, since I just did this install. I mean, literally just did. And I have not configured it to show us all the good stuff. All right, so there's hidden and all that other good stuff. Yeah, so that's all showing up. Good. Good, 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 good. And so our user is lab. I know if that doesn't give it away, but then app data, and just to show you, so actually what I should do is let's open local in a new window. System's kind of chugging. I've got like the base set of resources set for it, but so let's get that, and then we'll chug this one here. Okay, and so obviously I've showed you that the only thing we have mounted is the Windows ISO file. So we have a C and we have a D, as laid out right here. So now we're going to go through the actual process chain as soon as auto runs finishes, because I want to do a comparison once this portion's done. We've got the virus total stuff set up. Yes. So we're just going to call this pre. We'll let that save. And then we'll go ahead and we'll play the part. Save successful. Hooray, I love that. And actually, I think what I'm going to do, I realize you're not going to be able to see it because I've got the screen pulled up. I am going to disconnect the network. I don't think that there is a communication on this particular portion, but I'd just rather be safe than sorry. All right, so that's done. So we got that, and then give me one more so we can see the virtual, and then I dumped everything onto the desktop, so let's just open a new window there, and I realize, yes, this is going to probably be headache inducing. But so there's the ISO malware. And so for the first one, so you can see that I've kind of extracted it. I've got the output, everything else along those lines. And I realize, yes, it'll probably be a little bit difficult to see. But so we have app data local, app data roaming, which only contains a Adobe and a Microsoft folder. So it should be fairly simple to sit there and spot differences in this particular aspect. And again, we've got, what, 11 items in local? No healthy, no energy, no cache. So we're going to go ahead and, okay, we'll play the part of the user. Okay, my file's ready to download. Double click it. Notice she mounts. Okay, well, I'm not entirely sure, but I think the only thing here that's not hidden is that shortcut file. So, okay, sure, let's take a look and see what this is. And we've got the addition of Healthy into the roaming directory now. And mind you, this I have not disabled Windows Defender, and this was updated. So if you are relying on Defender for this to sit there and catch something, good luck. And so we've seen that it's been extracted. So let's go ahead and take a look. Did Healthy.exe run? No, Defender's cranking away. Yep, here we go. Down here, all the way at the bottom. I don't suppose I can make... Is there any way to make this bigger? Font. Here we go. Again, I do apologize for the delay on this stuff to actually come up. Oh, there we go. I mean, it looks atrocious, but I mean, it should be easier to see. And so we can see Healthy.exe basically spawning out a metric ton. And continuing to go. TCP IP view, is it trying to make any sort of establishment? Nope. So that's entirely silent. And of course, we can't get the virus total information. It's because I disconnected the network card. Well, screw it. I got my VPN running, so... There. And now notice too, MS Edge is kicked off, but yet I don't see it. But we have now the healthy inside of local. And again, the ISO is still mounted. I don't believe that it dismounts itself. And so basically just let's continue on. Where the Crawdads sing. Oh, bad. Let me just take a quick look at that one. Okay, this is the one that creates energy. I don't have one for cache. The other one the system B creates, I think, either energy or healthy. But so let's do the same thing. So where the Crawdads sing. That gets mounted as drive F. And same exact setup. app.zip, icon.ico, Install.lnk, and resources.bat. And again, the only thing not hidden. So if we go here and hidden items, boom. All you see is install. So depending as to how you have your OS set up, you may not even have any idea that there's anything else there. So we'll go ahead and let that run, and it will create energy, and healthy and energy will fight against each other to the battle of the death. And still, we've got our C, we've got our Windows CD-ROM mounted, and then we have the virtual ISOs still mounted. Yep, and so we have Edge kicking stuff off, and we have Healthy making communications out. Again, Windows Defender is absolutely silent, not complaining in the slightest. So let's go over to System B. Yeah, this one just creates another healthy. But notice the startup is different. This one is dash dash EVPRLRA56 as opposed to HV, whatever the case was previously, but same portion. Oh yeah, I took the ISO file and I added VIR at the end of it, since it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to sit there and add another healthy on top of healthy. So if we bring this down, then effectively we can see a fairly nice set of detections in regards to all that. So what I am going to do is we are going to kill the process trees for energy. We're going to kill the process tree for healthy. And we're going to kill all the stuff for edge. Because now I want to see make sure we got it all. Yeah, no other comms, or at least nothing apparent. Let's go ahead and refresh. And so what we can see is for the login path. Can we be able to do it for one? Can we? Oh, here we go. Font. Beautiful. Maybe not 20 since it was freaking atrocious. Hopefully that sits a little bit better for you. I'm trying. Okay. And what we might be able to do is if we do a compare, it should whittle everything else out. So we've got a pre-state and now we have a post-state. And so the only changes that have been made, at least to the registry or any sort of startup item, at least as far as auto runs is concerned, is both healthy and energy. And again, creates its own separate sections there. Notice, like I said, I mean, especially if you're not using anything else except for Defender, notice, not a peep. Because I'm showing or capturing the whole window, not just a part of it. Well, yeah, I know it's not activated, but why would I activate something I'm going to effectively nuke anyways? Ah, I need to get an updated version. This is 21H2. So yeah, dead silent. Oh, never mind. I thought I actually had that updated. Apparently not. My bad. I may not be able to because it's there, but let's take a quick look. So that's going to do its update. Let me update the healthy detection. I'll take the sandbox away and we'll get an updated detection for this is the Healthy.exe. We'll see if Microsoft gets added to the list because it wasn't 3 days ago. While we wait. Yeah, and I may not be able to sit there and get the definition updates due to the fact of not registering this copy of Windows, but again, I maintain the fact, why would I register Windows when I'm just going to basically nuke this sucker and revert back? Let's take a look. Mac Secure, McAfee Gateway Edition. Yeah. No Microsoft. Of course, that's also kind of surprising to me is that Malwarebytes has it completely undetected. And CrowdStrike hasn't picked it up. Sentinel-1 doesn't even have it picked up. But so there we go. And basically clean up. Thankfully, in these particular cases, have been incredibly simple. I don't think this is going to go. So it's as simple as going through, grabbing a copy of autoruns, running it with admin privileges, find these particular portions for HKey current user, software, Microsoft Windows current version run, and you can effectively either nuke them or just disable them. Pull out Process Explorer, nuke any open web browsers, stop the entire process group, and notice that no other firings have occurred. You verify that particular stuff is done, and then you can effectively either zip all this stuff up and shoot it out to virus total, sit there and get detections. At least with Healthy, the only thing that came through was the Healthy.exe and Node.dll. So I believe it was the same thing with Energy as well. But it's just as simple as cleaning them out of the local and roaming directories. Going through and right-clicking and ejecting on the virtual CD-ROM drives that have been created, and then tracking down the ISO files, removing them, and see as to what further analysis you can do. But effectively, okay, workstation's cleaned. And so what we'll do is, let me restart this. And so I'm going to pause and pick up. And then we'll basically kick off auto runs again, and we'll kick off with Process Explorer. May not have to as I'm explaining this. It doesn't seem like it takes too long for this stuff to go through. Maybe? Possibly? Or am I going to eat crow on this? Windows 10 cannot start because you have disabled something important. Fairly certain Healthy and Energy are not important. At least, not to Windows. To a person, sure. Well, I guess Energy would be. And yes, the ultra secret password of password. Again, it's a throwaway instance. So we'll go back to lab. And so we need process explorer one more time. And then auto runs. So I suppose what I should also show is so process, we'll make sure that there's no MS Edge because I have not installed anything else. No Firefox, no anything else. Okay, Edge is just starting automatically. It looks like Edge is updating. So no healthy, no energy. And we'll do the same thing. We'll let auto runs go. We will then compare it to the previous, the pre-infection. But as we can already see, okay, so it's got the particular sections for energy and health still unchecked, but it also is denoting what we love to see, file not found. So no other real defensive mechanisms besides that. Still waiting. Done. And so we will go back and do another compare to the pre-infection. Bing, bang, boom. There we go. No other attempts to reinfect, nothing else like that. So this is effectively gone. And mind you, this is only for these particular instances for ad search, but it is a demonstration of utilizing ISO files to get around various detection mechanisms. So if you've got CrowdStrike in your environment, you might want to sit there and kind of push back against your rep being said, or the support people saying, hey, we're seeing an uptick in ISO malware. What are you guys doing in regards to this? The same aspect would be, I would assume, for all the other major players as well. You know, Cylance, Sentinel-1. Just make them aware. As for the general AV, I mean, obviously, once these samples are kicked up, it doesn't take that long in order for everything to start actually having detections for them. Effectively, it is another aspect here in terms of why you can't just rely on antivirus alone to go through and save your bacon. Bacon. But all that being said, there we go. That is everything thus far. I don't expect that there'll be any further updates in regards to this, but I suppose if I come across additional samples that look interesting, maybe there'll be a follow-on video. Maybe I'll just update the video description in this in terms of the additional names. So like I said, so far we have health, energy, cache. And we'll see what shakes out further on. So I guess if you're kind of interested, you can grab Process Explorer and kind of take a look, see if you can find any of those entries. I don't believe there's any hiding, so you wouldn't even have to do that. You could just use Task Manager. Now, granted, I didn't show it, so okay, that's kind of on me to an extent. to show you that there's no health or healthy or health or energy, anything else like that. But I do believe all that stuff would end up showing up here. I just happen to like auto runs and Process Explorer as opposed to Task Manager. So different strokes for different folks. Because I know others prefer Resource Hacker. So it's just what you have. But so there we go. Check the links in the description. I'll include, well, basically the link to Eric Zimmerman's LECMD in order to go through and safely analyze LNK files. That was the other aspect I was going to show. Yeah, so these are all renamed, but they're all the extract of your files ready to download. So, and obviously I'm just going to throw this away, but so if we right click on this, we do properties. So it's pointing towards resources.bat. Well, that's interesting. When I tried to do that last time, yeah, and there's no resources.bat in the actual C drive. I don't know, when I tried to do it last time, it actually tried to execute, ergo I wanted to find a tool to analyze that stuff without an issue. It literally tried to execute, but it's not doing it now. But it complained the fact that resources.bat couldn't be found. But it did point to the same exact location. So, interesting. And that was when I was sitting there doing it on the sandbox. Demo gods, I guess. Apparently I must not have performed a accurate or adequate enough sacrifice in order for that to show up. In terms of defenses for this particular aspect, if you utilize 7-zip or some other zip application that actually supports ISO files, it may not hurt to sit there and have that automatically mount it. Just to get away from having that stuff kick off. Just out of safety's sake. Another aspect might be to have it load in a notepad file for your general desktop. Just really depends as to how you're going about doing this stuff. I mean, I can't really imagine that your general frontline office worker is going to need to work with ISO files. You might add it to a watch list. Same thing with like IMG files, VHD files, in the event that, they start, or threat actors switch from ISO files to IMG or DAA or VHD. But again, you'll have to make the determination as to, least amount of impact to the end user, obviously trying for the trade-off for the most security you can get. I mean, obviously, I would imagine the IT people would generally tend to go through and make use of ISO files, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your frontline office worker obviously would. And if they don't, do what you can to prevent the outright mounting and execution of them on there, or at least introduce an extra step. I mean, because realistically, if the end user's got something they don't understand, they really shouldn't be screwing with it. They should be either getting IT or IT security involved. But we all know that, the human condition is to effectively say, yeah, move on, next, install, so on and so forth. Or, nah, I know what I'm doing with this. I'm just going to go ahead and run it. Because obviously the AV will save me, right? If it's something bad. Sigh. So links to everything will be in the video description, and hopefully this is this will be it. No live streams, no further stuff, no further talk about this stuff, unless I find something else that's extremely interesting. Then okay, we'll might more in a deep dive. But yeah. So there we go. With all that being said, I will see everybody, maybe, possibly, hopefully, in the next video.